Well, fellas, a small miracle happened last night. You see, for the first time in quite a bit, I was able to stream for the full 3 hours that I normally stream on Friday nights. My ISP has been less than cooperative recently with being able to maintain a stable enough connection to where I can stream, but last night it worked. And during that Friday night live stream, I picked up a ship that I haven't played in a very long time. Surprisingly so, considering how good this ship is. And the match I had in it reminded me just how good this ship is. And it's so good, it can do pretty much everything you need a ship to do in game in almost any situation and be, maybe not the best at it, but be really friggin' good at whatever it is you need it to do. And that is the Tier 9 Premium American Cruiser, the Alaksa. Now, the Alaksa is unique for a couple of reasons. One, believe it or not, they actually built this thing in real life. We had two of them, Alaska and Guam. They were both territories at the time. And unfortunately, they had rather short service lives because as cool as these two ships were, they were a class of two. And when you're having to produce, spare parts, replacement barrels, ammunition, when you're the only two ships in the Navy that need 305 millimeter guns and other parts that are very unique to these two ships, it's not really cost effective to keep two of these ships around. And unfortunately, too, they didn't donate any to be museum ships. Again, they didn't really do too much during the war anyway. I think they were both commissioned in the late 40s. So, yeah. But we do have them in game, which is pretty cool that we do get to, experience this bit of history and interact with this bit of history in game. And it's also cool that it is such an excellent ship in game. Now, you might be wondering, well, Sealord, why are you even talking about this ship? Because this ship has been removed. Yes, the Alaksa was removed in update 10.1. However, you will be able to pick her up here in a few weeks, because the Alaksa is one of these ships that is part of the Black Friday event. You see, every Black Friday, the Black Friday event comes back in game where we have a whole host of ships that are made into black ships. They look exactly the same. They perform exactly the same as their normal counterparts. They just have a little B behind their name. They come with a cool black camouflage. So you can potentially get this ship, well, not potentially, you can get this ship in the Black Friday event. Last year they sold all the ships individually, so I'd imagine they do the same thing this year. So why should you pick this ship up if you haven't already? Well, like I said, the Alaksa is just good at literally just about everything you could need a ship to do in game, short of being a torpedo boat because it doesn't have any torpedoes. She's equipped with 9 305 millimeter guns, though, with the American shells, which are lovely. The AP shells are incredibly hard-hitting for their caliber. So while you do have a 305 millimeter gun, it really feels like you're shooting like a 14-inch or a 15-inch shell sometimes with how hard these shells hit. It's not uncommon for Alaksa to Citadel battleships, especially the ones with weaker side armor, at pretty decent ranges, which is insane when it does happen. And in the background footage you're watching right now, that does happen with a North Carolina that was even angled, surprisingly so. The AP still got through and citadeled them. But unlike a lot of other ships in game that usually have to trade off, really good AP for mediocre HE, the Alaksa still has really good HE. The HE shells have no problem starting fires from what I've experienced. Their base fire chance is 27%, and when you have a 20-second base reload time and 9 guns that are really darn accurate, 27% is more than enough to be starting a fair amount of fires. On top of that, too, you still have a maximum HE damage rating of, what is it? It's 4,300. Yeah, 4,300 is about half of the alpha rating of the main battery gun. So you're doing pretty decent alpha damage with the HE if you can't use the AP on a ship, which, with the AP and, the American AP parameters, there's, short of a ship going full bow on into you and their superstructure being fully saturated, you can just keep the AP loaded in most cases, or when you're dealing with destroyers. Another thing, too, is that the main battery guns are really, really accurate. This is a ship that can sit angled in, like I'm doing for a good portion of this match, on an island and just not really care about the third turret, because the front two turrets are more than accurate enough, and again with the AP and the H that you have equipped on the Alaska, more than capable enough of putting out the damage that you need to put out. And when you can bring that third turret into the fight, it's just like, additional damage on top of everything else. It's the exact opposite of what the Puerto Rico is, the tier 10, Alaska with another turret welded to the back. They balance that thing out by giving it like battleship dispersion, Montana dispersion on cruiser guns, which means when you can only get the front two guns in the fight, the front two turrets in the fight with the Puerto Rico, it's kind of miserable. But with the Alaska, who cares? Again, with the gun parameters, it most certainly does not. So on top of just having an excellent gun set, the ship itself is really tough. You have 27mm plating, which means you simply, do not care about anything that isn't a 16-inch or a gun. Now you might be saying, there's a lot of 16-inch and above guns at Tier 9. Sure, absolutely there is. But there's also a lot of 15-inch guns going around in your matchmaking pool, because you are a Tier 9. You are going to get into Tier 10 games a lot, and even super ship games, but on those mixed matchmaking games, or when you're top tier, there's a lot of stuff you can just throw your middle finger, your middle finger up at, and really not care about their AP, because again, you have 27mm plating, so that's great. And the armor layout too is pretty decent. It's not impossible to Citadel in Alaska, but as long as you are, being cognizant about your surroundings and staying pretty decently angled into the enemy team, you're a pretty tough little cruiser to crack. And the ship sits really low in the waterline. It's not like the Aegir and the Siegfried. Those two large cruisers kind of stand up out of the water. If you look at the Alaska, she sits pretty darn low in the water. So, that's less shells that are going into your freeboard and such. And, again, it's a really tough ship thanks to that and her armor layout. She's also pretty darn maneuverable too. Her maximum speed with no flag is 33 knots. Not bad. Throw the speed flag on there. You get her up to, I think, 37 knots. And then turning circle radius, 850 meters with a 13-second base rudder shift time. Again, pretty maneuverable little cruiser here. Oh, actually, big cruiser. And then you couple that with the AP and the tough armor. There are plenty of instances where you can drive circles around other ships and get to their sides and just dump your 9 305mm guns with your excellent AP into their sides and simply make them cry. So that's a beautiful, beautiful thing there with the Alaska. And the absolute just icing on the cake is that not only is this thing tough, not only is it great at dealing damage, it's also got great utility. You get hydro and radar at the same time in separate slots in your consumables. That's crazy that they gave this to a ship that already has great damage output and is so tough. So on top of all that, you get two of the best consumables in game, especially right now. With all the submarines going around, hydro's fantastic. Radar's great for dealing with destroyers that are smoked up in front of you, or maybe they're on the other side of the island for you. You can radar them, get them spotted for your team. That's what I was doing a lot of in this match as well. If you, for some reason, hate radar, you can also take a catapult fighter or a spotting aircraft for some reason. Yeah, just take the radar and the hydro. And again, if you really don't like planes, you can also take DFAA instead of hydroacoustic search. Again, don't really know why you do that, but you can if you want to. So this ship has really high utility, high survivability. It doesn't get a heal, by the way, if you haven't noticed on screen. So again, it's got good armor. It's got that nice low freeboard. It's maneuverable. All this in one ship. It's no wonder that the ship was removed. And it did stick around for some time. She was introduced in like 8.2, 8.3, somewhere in there. And she got pulled in 10.1. So she was around for almost 2 full years. And again, she is still around today. You can get this ship when she comes back for Black Friday. She's one of the 2 ships that I do highly recommend you guys pick up on Black Friday, because again, she's just so good. Tier 9 competitive, she'll be there. Tier 9 ranked, she'll be there. Tier 9 clan battles, she'll be there. Tier 9 random battles, she's great in all of these things. I mean, really, if you need something to get you through Tier 9 ranked, and you don't feel like playing a battleship, but you feel like playing a smaller battleship, definitely Alaska. And in competitive too, again, if clan battles ever goes back to Tier 9, I mean, again, the utility, you get the American radar, the 10-kilometer long-duration American radar here, fellas, along with the hydro and the high hit pool, because, you know, this is a cruiser that has 60,800 HP on top of being a really tough boat. So it's just a complete package. If it had torpedoes, it could literally do everything in the game. I mean, like, she's good for cap contesting. If you can get to an island or something where you can keep the destroyers radared, or just, get within radar range and be safe, you can radar the destroyers when they try to go to the cap. You can hit them with your HE because, again, you have accurate guns and good HE. Now, of course, at longer ranges, the American shells do their thing, but definitely from like medium range in, this thing, it's just awesome at putting out damage. So if you need to deal with other cruisers, I mean, the AP on this ship is fantastic for dealing with other cruisers. You can and you will absolutely, if not outright delete, many a cruiser you run across, chunk the ever-living crap out of them if they do show you their broadside. And tanking, again, the armor's great. Sits low in the water, so if you know how to angle, you can tank a lot of damage with the ship. Now, of course, too, like all the other large cruisers, fires are the Alaska's Achilles heel, but that's, not really anything new when it comes to these large cruisers. But if you do know how to balance your damage con and your heal, you can very much make the most out of it. And again, with how fast the ship is, you can just simply leave the situation if you are finding yourself getting burned down a little bit too much. Concealment's also pretty solid as well. 15.4 kilometers is the base concealment range, so you can get that down to like 11-ish with the commander skill and the module. So again, just all around a really good ship, and one that I would highly encourage you guys to pick up in it's August now, in 2 months when the Black Friday event goes live. But yeah, I just played her last night on stream and figured I'd talk about her today because, again, the match I had, it was just such a nice trip down memory lane with the Alaska, because we didn't have any CVs, didn't have any submarines. So a really nice, pleasant little match in the Alaska that had me, having some fond memories about the ship. But anyway, guys, if you guys did enjoy today's video, make sure you drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and all of that jazz. Hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday and wonderful weekend. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.